Hello everyone! Today I'm bringing you an action masterpiece that just hit theaters, set in the universe of our favorite pencil-wielding assassin, John Wick. It's about a young woman who single-handedly storms the stronghold of a cult to avenge her late father. Although she gets some help from the legendary assassin John Wick, can the two of them safely complete their mission? Let's find out right now. Young Eve, her face stained with blood, intently observes her music box. A flashback appears, memories of her beloved father. They are dancing joyfully by a lake. He praises her dancing, saying that although she still makes mistakes, she'll surely be more perfect in the future. He also mentions she greatly resembles her older sister, though Eve can't quite remember what her sister looked like. Her father also gives her the music box as a gift. That night, while her father is brushing his teeth, Eve is still engrossed in her music box. Suddenly, a group of armed men emerges from the water and takes down the guards outside. Her father realizes there are intruders and reacts swiftly, rushing out to confront them. However, the enemies are numerous and aggressive, not easily dealt with. He throws a smoke bomb as a distraction, then runs inside to find his daughter. He leads her to a secret door and tells her to stay put, no matter what, and not to make a sound. He then goes back outside to stop the intruders. His combat skills are no joke. He faces an overwhelming number of enemies without flinching. Meanwhile, Eve is hiding, watching the scene unfold with eyes full of fear and helplessness. But the enemies are too many. They gradually overpower Eve's father. Finally, the inevitable happens. He is subdued by the mysterious assailants. At this point, another man approaches, seemingly the boss behind all this. He says, "We all welcomed you like family, even allowed you to marry into the clan. But you betrayed us, dared to steal what wasn't yours. Your wife died to atone for your mistake. Now, where is your daughter, Eve?" Eve's father contemptuously refuses to cooperate, so they continue to beat him mercilessly. Just then, the old boss loads a bullet into his gun and speaks in a calm yet menacing tone. He forces him to make a choice. Either you end your own life and your daughter lives, or you shoot me, and then both father and daughter die. Just as he's about to make his decision, Eve can no longer hold back and screams. Seeing his daughter exposed, Eve's father immediately attacks the enemy. However, due to his severe injuries, he's no match for them. In a life-or-death moment, Eve steps out, picks up the gun from the floor, and pulls the trigger, saving her father's life. The two then escape through the secret passage. Before leaving, Eve's father doesn't forget to leave a time bomb. Finally, both father and daughter manage to escape just before the entire house explodes. However, the old boss had also escaped earlier, leaving in a rage but unable to do anything further. Over here, once out of the danger zone, Eve's father collapses due to his severe wounds. He only manages to say, "I'm sorry," to his daughter before passing away. Eve is heartbroken, hugging her father and sobbing uncontrollably. Back in the present, a man named Winston Scott comes to see Eve. This guy is the hotel manager from John Wick. He comforts her and says he knew her father. "I couldn't help your father, but what I can do is offer to take you to his family. They will take care of you, and hopefully one day it will become your new family." Eve, with nowhere else to go, silently nods in agreement, and that decision changes her life forever. Eve is taken to a theater called Roma. After speaking with the manager there, the woman says she knows exactly who Eve is and has agreed to let her stay. Before parting, Winston Scott says he will always be there for her, whenever she needs him. He also gives her a gold coin and leaves. Eve then meets Nogi, her new instructor at Roma. She says, "I knew your father. He was like me, a Kikimora." In mythology, a Kikimora is a spirit that lives in those whose hearts are marked by darkness. It can be an avenging entity, but also a protector of the innocent. Its image embodies two sides of the same coin, killing or salvation. And now, that choice will be yours. Time flies like a dog running in a field. Eve is now grown up and focuses on her passion, ballet. She practices relentlessly, to the point where her toes bleed, yet she never gives up. Countless times she falls and gets back up. It gets to the point where the manager has to stop her, fearing she'll overexert herself. Not only that, besides ballet, Eve has to train in many other things. That's right, this place is actually a notorious assassin training facility, the very place that produced the legendary John Wick. The training is incredibly harsh, from hand-to-hand combat to marksmanship and moving in the shadows. She always strives to be the best. Gradually, Eve is no longer an innocent little girl, but a true assassin. Inside Ruska Roma, one of the most important challenges is to protect the designated person at all costs. That is the one unbreakable rule. Eve participates in these tests, but despite all her efforts, she always fails. Nogi, her instructor, says her opponents always defeat her because she allows them to. She reminds Eve not to yield, to improvise, to adapt, not to fight to the enemy's strengths, but from her own advantages. As if enlightened, Eve applies what she just learned. This time, she excellently completes the test. One day, after returning to her room from ballet practice, Eve doesn't see her roommate's belongings. Immediately, she goes to the manager to ask. The manager bluntly states that the other girl no longer belongs to Ruska Roma because she didn't have what it takes, the killer instinct. Here, those who are not qualified are eliminated. Then, the manager reveals that the time has come. Eve is ready. She has reached the final stage of her training. She is led to a closed room. Another person is also brought in, someone who has been in the organization for 10 years and is now being used as a test subject due to a mistake made during a mission. They must assemble a pistol, load it, and pull the trigger. Only one of them will survive. And Eve is faster. She pulls the trigger, just like when she shot to save her father. Although there's a moment of hesitation, if she didn't do it, she would be the one dead. That night, she meets John Wick. This is it, the money shot. This is when John Wick returns to the organization, gets a tattoo on his back, and is informed that he can never return to this place again, effectively ending his relationship with Ruska Roma. All of this is witnessed by Eve. As John Wick leaves, she follows him with curiosity. She asks if he is the legendary Baba Yaga. How did you get out of there? How could you do all those things? John replies that the door will close sooner than she thinks, and she can still leave if she wants. He himself is trying to find his own way out. Sometime later, Eve receives her first official mission. She must protect a young girl, the daughter of a powerful ally of the organization. The responsibility is immense. The girl's life depends on Eve. She is given a Glock 43X with rubber bullets and sent to find her target. A critical mission, and they only give her rubber bullets? Seriously, lady? That night, Eve, dressed to the nines, goes to a bar. She quickly identifies her target, and just as feared, a group of strangers also appears, wanting to kidnap her. Eve immediately steps in. Knowing words won't work with this bunch, she can only resort to martial arts. She lunges into attack, but is initially overwhelmed. But no worries, as soon as she regains her composure, Eve immediately counterattacks, starting to take them down one by one, showing them who the main character of this movie is. Good thing they were rubber bullets. If they were real, this group would have no way back home. By the time she deals with these small fries, the leader of the group has already taken the target away. Wasting no time, Eve immediately gives chase. Seeing a hammer on a table, she grabs it as a weapon. This guy lives up to his reputation as the leader of those grunts. His fighting skills are somewhat decent, but unfortunately for him, he's not the main character. Eve whacks him repeatedly with the hammer. Finally, she gives him a warning blow and leaves. Eve then goes to rescue the young girl, completing her mission. Upon returning to the organization, she gets a new tattoo to mark this milestone. The manager looks at Eve with pride. She is no longer a trainee, but a true Kikimora. 2 months later, after completing another mission, Eve takes a photo as proof and sends it in as a report. A moment later, her phone buzzes, notifying her of a payment of $750,000. Talk about quick business, unlike my boss who's always late with my salary by a dozen days. She then leaves, not forgetting to retrieve her weapons embedded in the enemies. Truly beautiful and badass. Done, Eve calmly drives off in her BMW M4 F80. Not far down the road, another car suddenly slams into hers and opens fire intensely. Unfazed, Eve calmly shoots and kills the driver. She then rushes to confront the remaining attacker, who wields 2 axes and attacks relentlessly. But Eve is no pushover. She snatches one axe and hacks away until the enemy is sent to the great beyond. As she's about to leave, she notices an X-shaped scar on the wrists of these assailants. It's identical to the ones who murdered her father years ago. Without hesitation, Eve takes the arm and brings it to the manager of Ruska Roma, asking her about the symbol. The manager seems displeased, explaining that those who bear that mark are barbarians without laws. They and Ruska Roma have an understanding. River water doesn't mix with well water. They don't interfere in each other's affairs. It's an ancient pact. She also orders Eve not to pursue this, as it will surely not end well. Unsatisfied with the answer, Eve decides to go to the Continental, the Assassin's Hotel. She requests to speak with the manager, Winston Scott. After meeting Winston, Eve tells him she's looking for the group responsible for her father's death. Like the manager, Winston also warns her that pursuing these people offers no benefit and is, in fact, very dangerous. Eve places the gold coin Winston previously gave her on the table and says she's willing to risk everything, even being excommunicated from the organization. Seeing this determination, Winston reveals that those who bear the scar are not a clan, they are a cult. They kill not just for work, but also for pleasure. And one of them, a man named Daniel Pine, is staying at one of the Continental hotels, the Prague branch. Winston then makes a call for more information. They confirm that Daniel Pine has a bounty on his head, issued 3 days ago for $2 million, and is in room 315 of the Continental Prague. Of course, Eve will take this mission. Upon arriving at the Continental in Prague, Eve requests room 314. The lobby is full of assassins, and she's not the only hunter here. Eve has no idea that her every move is being watched. When she breaks into Daniel's room, she sees his daughter. In the little girl's eyes, Eve sees an image of her own childhood. Just then, Daniel appears, holding her at gunpoint from behind. Eve doesn't hesitate to tell him what brought her here. Years ago, someone with your mark murdered my father. I want to know where to find them. But just then, Lena, a powerful woman also at the Continental, increases the bounty on Daniel Pine to $4 million. All assassins are hunting him. Over here, Daniel tells Eve that the people she's looking for are surrounding this hotel, hoping someone breaks the rules so they can legitimately take action here. Suddenly, other assassins storm in and attack them. The two try to fight back. While Eve is struggling in a fierce brawl with an enemy, Daniel escapes with his daughter. When they meet again in the elevator, Daniel explains to Eve that no one can leave the cult alive. It's an eternal bond. But if Eve helps him protect his daughter, he will tell her where to find them. Daniel then reassures his daughter, saying everything will be okay. When they get out, Daniel stays behind to hold off the other assassins, wanting to buy time for Eve and his daughter to escape. But history repeats itself. He is murdered right in front of his daughter. At the same time, Eve is hit and knocked unconscious. Daniel's daughter is taken by Lena. When Eve wakes up, she's apprehended by the hotel's security team along with other assassins. She tries to defend herself. I wasn't the one who shot first. I didn't break any rules. Of course, that's how she manages to stay alive. Wasting no time, Eve goes to a weapons shop to get more toys. The owner invites her to see his private collection, but just as she's intently examining some guns, other enemies suddenly attack. What rotten luck! She can't even catch a break before having to fight again. All guns but no ammo. Eve grabs a crate of grenades and throws them at the enemy. Still not confident, she throws another one just to be sure. She then rushes out to fight the remaining ones hand to hand. It takes a long, hard struggle to eliminate all enemies. When everything goes silent, Eve returns to the shop to check. The owner, thanks to his ancestors' blessings, is still alive. When he learns that the people who just destroyed his shop also have the mark on their wrists, he's furious and gives Eve more information. He reveals that the exact location of the cult has never been confirmed. All who tried to find it never returned, but there's a rumor they gather on a mountain. Eve asks to borrow a car to get there quickly, and the shop owner generously gives her his heirloom Mustang. The heroine immediately sets off. While driving, the manager contacts her again. She is furious that Eve disobeyed her rules and demands she return immediately, or else, don't blame the sea for being salty. Don't say I didn't warn you. Just then, passing through a small town, a shop catches her attention. In the display window is a music box identical to the one her father gave her. Curious, Eve steps inside to take a look, but the atmosphere here is a bit strange. At that moment, a strange man walks in and, without a word, opens fire, attacking Eve. Our heroine immediately fights back, but this guy is tougher than usual, taking continuous hits without flinching. Eve finally manages to break his arm, retake the gun, and send him to his maker.
As she's about to run outside, she's blocked by a waitress wielding a knife. Her skills are not to be underestimated, but Eve then smashes several plates over her head, subdues her, and locks her in a room. Before she can even catch her breath, many other people in this town, fully armed, arrive to hunt Eve. No doubt, everyone here belongs to that mysterious cult. Any stranger entering the town is detected by them. This is a battle for survival. But unfortunately for them, their opponent this time is no pushover. After dealing with the people in the shop, Eve runs outside. However, by now the entire town has received orders to hunt down the intruder. Old and young, men and women, big and small, everyone pours onto the streets to pursue Eve. Fighting all of them alone is truly overwhelming. Just as she's about to be overpowered, a woman appears. It's Lena, the boss's henchwoman. After seeing the tattoo on Eve's back, she hits Eve with the butt of her gun, knocking her unconscious. When she wakes up, she finds herself tightly bound to a chair in a room. Soon after, the old boss also appears. He says that his organization and Ruscaroma have an understanding. River water doesn't mix with sewer water. Eve says this is personal, no one sent her here. The old boss thinks Eve is here to save Daniel's daughter. He says the girl is his granddaughter. He says his son tried to take his granddaughter away, disrupting the line of succession, breaking ancestral heritage. This means Daniel was his son, who wanted to take his daughter away from this cult, and as a result, was eliminated by assassins sent by his own father. Eve angrily says, "I once had a family. Your people broke into my home, murdered my father, and wanted to take me away." Hearing this, the old boss seems to remember. He just says, "Fate truly knows how to mock," and then leaves. As he steps out, he meets Lena approaching. He then drops a bombshell. Eve is Lena's biological sister. This news stuns Lena for a few seconds.
Meanwhile, Eve has managed to break free, attacks the guards, and escapes. Lena immediately gives chase. When they confront each other, Lena tells Eve she thought she was dead all these years. Lena says she always wondered why their father took Eve away that year and not her. She was taught by the old boss that members of the cult must remain in the cult forever, and their descendants must also be loyal for life. Eve opposes this notion. Was it wrong for my father to want his daughter to live a normal life? Meanwhile, the old boss has ordered his subordinates to eliminate both sisters to avoid future trouble. A grenade is thrown in. The explosion severely injures them. Enduring the pain, Eve crawls to her sister's side. Before dying, Lena only manages to tell Eve that she was only 9 when it happened, and since then, she has missed her sister very much. Her last living relative just died before her eyes, making Eve truly enraged. She picks up a katana and skewers all of the old boss's henchmen, unleashing all her fury on them. Then she grabs a walkie-talkie and coldly tells the old boss, "This won't end until you yourself are dead." Scared witless, the old boss is forced to contact the manager of Ruscaroma. He blames her for breaking the rules and the ancestral pact that has kept them in balance for centuries. In response, the manager declares that Ruscaroma does not want war. Eve's presence there is entirely due to her personal motives. Therefore, she proposes a compromise. Send someone capable of resolving the issue without further bloodshed. Finally, they reach an agreement. If Eve is still alive by midnight, the old boss will declare war on Ruscaroma. Then, the manager makes the decision to excommunicate Eve from Ruscaroma and summons the only man capable of completing this task, John Wick, also known as Baba Yaga. At the same time, the old boss issues a public order to all citizens. Anyone who interferes will be excommunicated. Everyone must let the wolf deal with its prey on its own. In this case, the wolf is John Wick, and the prey is Eve. A short while later, John Wick confronts Eve. He gives her a choice: either leave now to save her own life or stay and face death. Eve, without hesitation, chooses to stay and draws her gun to attack. Of course, her skill level is no match for the legendary boogeyman. But, moved by her determination, John Wick spares her life 3 times. Yet Eve still refuses to give up. Her desire to avenge the deaths of her father and sister is too strong. John Wick understands that feeling. Previously, someone just stole his car and killed his dog, and he massacred their entire family. Not wanting to harm Eve, he decides to let her go. Eve infiltrates the base, shoves a grenade into a guard's mouth, and blows him to bits. Because of this, the old boss orders all members in town to immediately hunt her down.
The heroine sneaks into a warehouse thinking no one knows, but enemies have already followed. She fights single-handedly against a crowd of tall, dark, and smelly men. With years of combat training, plus the power of a main character, Eve alone is more than capable of dishing out pain to the enemy. She grabs a pair of skis and uses their sharp edges as weapons. All the assassins in town are mobilized to hunt the intruder. After much searching, Eve manages to get into the armory. Talk about a blessing in disguise. So, she uses the toys she just found to set traps, hindering the enemy's advance. Not only that, she also finds a super-duper VIP pro flamethrower. Whoever she meets gets turned into a 7-course roast dog. With this ridiculously overpowered weapon, Eve is like a god, slaughtering all enemies she encounters.
However, the opposing side also has a tough nut to crack, the old boss's most capable henchman. He also gets a flamethrower and uses it to attack Eve. "All right, if you play with fire, I'll play with water," she says, grabbing a fire hose to confront the enemy head-on. But in the end, the heroine is still overwhelmed. In the nick of time, John Wick, from a distance with a sniper rifle, saves Eve's life. But that shot reveals his position, so all the assassins turn to hunt him. John Wick alone has to manage amidst enemies on all sides. Luckily, these guys are all amateurs. Taking them down is not difficult for the man known as the legendary assassin. Over here, the old boss is getting into a car to escape when Eve blocks his path. She opens fire, forcing the car to stop. The driver just opens the door and eats lead, returning to Mother Earth. The old boss calmly steps out, asserting that Eve's actions will change nothing. The village will continue to operate, and the system of raising children will be maintained for generations. But Eve doesn't listen. Her purpose is revenge. Bang! The old boss falls, gone to the great beyond. The vendetta is settled. Eve approaches, extends her hand to take Daniel's daughter, and leaves this place with the girl. John Wick, witnessing everything, contacts the manager of Ruska Roma, reporting that the old boss is dead. But surprisingly, Daniel, although severely injured, is still alive and recovering at the Continental Hotel. Both father and daughter are later reunited. At the end of the movie, while Eve is in a theater watching a ballet performance, her phone suddenly buzzes. A bounty has been issued. The target is Eve, with a reward of up to $5 million. This is the action movie that just hit theaters, titled from the John Wick universe, Ballerina.